Hello, everybody. It's been a little bit since I uploaded a video. Today, I wanted to talk about a game that I feel like is really going under a lot of people's radar, and I think it's a game a lot of people are going to really like. And I kind of understand why it's going under people's radar with all of the video games coming out. But I wanted to talk about that game. First, apologies for crazy hair and just generally looking like I got out of bed. And that's because I just got out of bed. I've tactically rearranged my sleep schedule so I would sleep during the day and wake up at night at the launch of Iceborne. Iceborne's about to launch. And God knows I'm going to be putting a bunch of hours into that. So I wanted to just be super awake, then get some coffee, and just be ready to go, dude. Have a long ass gaming session of Iceborne. But anyway, the game that I'm referring to is Code Vein. In case you don't know, Code Vein comes out in just a few weeks here. It comes out September 27th at the end of the month, and it is the best Souls-like game to ever exist. There's no way around it. I have played a lot of Souls-like games, almost all of them, in fact, because I love Dark Souls. I've played Dark Souls 1, 2, 3. I've played Bloodborne. Bloodborne's my favorite. I've played Sekiro. And I love a lot of them. Like I said, Bloodborne is my favorite. I think Dark Souls 1 is kind of poo-poo. But I do love that type of game, that really difficult game that really rewards repetition and tactical thinking, not being greedy, with deeper RPG elements. I've played Salt and Sanctuary, Lords of the Fallen. I tried The Surge. I've played Neo. I've played Titan Souls. I've played Ashen. I've played Hollow Knight. If you want to, some people consider that a Souls-like game. I've played all of these Souls-like games. I've played Remnant, which just came out, advertised itself as a third-person shooter Souls-like. I guess it didn't advertise itself. Everybody else advertised it as that. And far, far, far ahead of all of the rest of those titles is Code Vein. Code Vein released a demo that you can play on PS4 and Xbox One. Unfortunately, not on PC, which is a bummer. The game is releasing on PC though, and that's definitely where I would say that you should get the game. Obviously, wait to see if the port is good, but it does have some performance issues on console. But that's also seen in Dark Souls games. But I played through the trial version. That they call it a trial version instead of a demo. Because a demo is traditionally not very long. It's like 30 minutes. If I think back to like the BioShock demo and stuff like that, like it's traditionally not very long. This is a legit, I played it for over 2 hours. Like it is a legit trial of the game. You play through to the beginning part of the story, you get introduced to all of the mechanics, and then after that, they actually have a dungeon that is very similar to Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne. They have a very difficult dungeon that you can go through and fight several bosses on top of the one boss that you fight in like the story part. And the game is very good. It's very good. Like I said, it is honestly the best Souls-like game that's ever come out. I kind of joked when I played Neo and streamed it, and I was like, "Oh, this is anime Dark Souls," but Code Vein is actually anime Dark Souls, and I don't want that to turn you off if you're not like an anime fan, because the reason I say it's anime is because it has kind of bad English dub, similar to a lot of anime, and you know, it has your waifus, it has the female characters with the giant boobs that aren't wearing a lot of clothing. So you know, all of those anime tropes and stuff like that. You're the chosen one that has to go through this, but the game, just all in all, is very good, and it does a lot of interesting things. That it doesn't just copy Dark Souls, it actually does a lot of interesting things that I really enjoy. For me, the most important thing in these types of games, in Dark Souls like games, is the feeling of you can get absolutely destroyed very quickly if you are not paying attention. You know, it's not really a game you can idly play and zone out. Obviously, if you played through the game a few times, you can, but like on your first playthrough, you got to be on it. There's going to be shit, you know, traps and stuff like that. The game is out to kill you. And if you make a mistake, you are going to be heavily punished for it. I really like that, because it's something that we don't see in a lot of games these days. And this game has that in spades. It has you doing high damage to enemies. It has enemies doing high damage to you. It has your rolls and your different types of rolls depending on your equipment. It has tons of equipment to choose from, and several different types of weapons to fit any sort of play style. And the thing that I really like about it, it is how it does the RPG mechanics. So in Dark Souls or Bloodborne or you know, any of those games, the RPG mechanics is pretty simple, right? You gain your souls or your blood echoes or whatever. You go to a character or a location, and then you allocate those souls or whatever, that currency, towards stats. So you can boost your vitality, and that'll give you more HP, or your strength, and that'll let you use heavier weapons, as well as boost your damage with strength weapons and dexterity and stamina. You know the gist of it. This game doesn't actually do that. So it does have a currency that you build up as you kill enemies, and you can acquire with certain items. And then when you die, it does deplete all of that and leave a spot on the floor that you have to go back to and retrieve it, right? Just like Dark Souls. And you do spend that currency on leveling up, but when you level up, it just increases. There is no like picking your stats. And at first I thought that would be a negative, because I'm thinking, okay, there's no specialization here. But they do this very interesting thing called blood codes. The whole concept of the game, no spoilers or anything, just how the game starts off literally in the tutorial, is that you are a vampire, for lack of a better terminology. I believe they call you a revenant, but there are vampires that need to survive on blood, and every vampire has a blood code. And this blood code is their stat. You know, in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, how you pick your starting thing. You pick if you want to be like a warrior, a paladin, and that affects your starting equipment. That affects your stats. Picture that, but it actually being important, because you can change in the game if you want to be a paladin or if you want to be a mage. So, for example, at the beginning of the game, the reason that you are like this chosen one character is because you don't really have a blood code, which means you can use any blood code, which means that when you beat a boss, or if you drink somebody else's blood, you can use their blood code, which is essentially a class. And there are tons of these in the game. There's like 8 or 9 of them just in the trial version. So I have no doubt there's going to be tons of them in the game. And these are essentially your different classes and your different play styles. So while you only level up your base level, if you want to, you know, adjust your stats, if you want to be more of a mage, then you can use a mage blood code and specialize into that. Or if you want to be like a dark assassin, you can spec into that blood code. And these are things that you can change whenever you go to a bonfire. In this game, they're called missiles, like Mistle, I believe. But it's a very interesting mechanic, because it allows you to all of these classes have their strength and their weaknesses, right? One that does a lot of damage is not going to have a lot, or one that has, you know, a lot of strength or a lot of dexterity is not going to have a lot of HP, vice versa. I particularly took to the, I believe it's called the Barbarian one. because I like using big weapons. If you know me at all, I love my big swords. I like to create guts from Berserk and just have a giant ass sword and just fucking swing that thing around. And I don't really care about, anything else. I just want to do as much damage as possible with my sword swings. So I chose Barbarian, which doesn't have a lot of mana. They don't call it mana, but it's essentially mana. So you can't utilize a lot of skills. And the cool thing is that your blood echoes, or whatever you want to call them, your currency, your souls, you spend those on top of just leveling up your general stats to level up each of these blood codes. And you can learn new abilities with that blood code, and then if you use that blood code enough, you will inherit those abilities. And once you inherit them, you can place them on different blood codes, which is really cool. So it has you switching up your playstyle as you are playing, because you can, get a new blood code and be like, oh, this blood code has for example, I unlocked a blood code for Barbarian, and that had an ability that massively increased my damage for my next hit, but only for that one hit. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I use that blood code and I inherit that ability. I, unlock it, use it a bit, and then I inherit it to put it on a different blood code, on a different class. And so then I pair that with a couple other skills that just boost my general attack, and I could get my attack to be like 150% what it was normally supposed to be for my next hit, which is really cool. And you can mix and match these abilities. You can look and say, oh, this blood code specializes in like shadow magic, this one in fire magic. I'm gonna, switch to these blood codes, unlock these abilities, use them, inherit them, and then put them on a different blood code, maybe that's more attuned to, melee and physical fighting, has higher strength and higher dexterity levels. So that way I can do damage with my melee, but I can also have a variety of magical abilities. And that's where I really think this game shines, is the magical abilities. There's so many different skills, and it's really cool, because how a lot of these Souls-like games do it, and even how Dark Souls does it, is that you have uses for your spells. And some of them you have mana for your spells. And then you have to use an ability or something like that. And once you use your ability, you are out of mana, right? Or you have to use an item and drink a mana potion or something like that. In this game, it actually implements the mana system, but it implements it into gameplay. So you are obviously a vampire. So if you suck out the blood of your enemy, which you can do either by doing a sneak attack on them, similar to a Dark Souls game where you sneak up behind them, press the attack button, you do your animation, that will acquire some blood that you can then use for your abilities. If you do a parry, right? Parrying is in this game. If you do a parry, then you can do, a visceral attack or a large attack to them that will give you some blood. If you there's also just a separate move entirely, which is going to differ in animation, range, and damage based on your gear, that you can use, that you can charge up and attack enemies with, and that will also acquire you some blood. So there's several different ways to get blood, which is essentially your mana, which will then fuel your spells and your skills and stuff like that. And there are so many magical abilities, and so many of them are really, really cool, that it's one of those games that you're going to be popping around classes. You're going to say, this ability is really cool, I want this ability on this class. There's going to be probably some builds that are very, very OP and really cool, and I really like that. But like I said, I went for a barbarian build that had a giant hammer, which I of course swapped to a giant sword when I finally found one, that focused entirely on overpowering my target physically. All of my skills were boosting my attack, giving me extra long range attacks. I had one where I would drag my sword quickly forward, swipe an enemy upwards, they'd fly into the air, come down, and then I would smash my sword down and create a blood explosion in front of me. It did like well over 1,000 damage. It was really satisfying. I would pair that ability with my attack boost and my massive attack boost for my next attack. And there's a lot of these, and this is just scratching the surface, right? This is just very base level stuff. There's a lot of really cool things you're going to be able to do. And it just kind of sucks to me that this game is coming out at this time, because not a lot of people are talking about Code Vein. I feel like not a lot of people even know that Code Vein is a game or it's coming out at all. And it sucks because, you know, it is this prime time of the year. Like I mentioned earlier, we got Iceborne. Obviously, in like a week, we get Borderlands 3. Actually, a couple days before Code Vein comes out. Code Vein comes out on the 27th. The Surge 2 comes out on the 24th, and that is also another Souls-like game. Very, very different. And while it does have some unique mechanics, and I've been looking at gameplay of it, it's not going to be as good as Code Vein. I can guarantee you. Code Vein is easily the best Souls-like game I've ever played, and I've played a lot of them. And I did dabble a little bit in the Surge 1. And who knows? They're probably gonna, improve in Surge 2, but it's not gonna be anywhere close to Code Vein. Code Vein, on top of, all of the wonderful gameplay mechanics, it does also have very interesting lore with this dystopian society in the future where you don't really know what the hell has gone on and why these vampires exist and why these vampires are searching so desperately for these items called blood tears, and how you have the ability to sort of revive these desolate places, these completely destroyed like herbs. You have the ability to awaken them and create blood tears, and there's just a lot of stuff going on that's actually very interesting. And the game is very, very similar to Bloodborne for me, like in terms of it is a violent game. You are utilizing blood in a lot of your attacks, and blood is a huge mechanic in the game. And just like the lore, I was always a lot more interested in Bloodborne lore than I was with Dark Souls lore. That could just be me, but Bloodborne had such a unique and fascinating world to it, and I just wanted more information on that world. And Code Vein gives me a very similar sort of feeling of this world. It has a lot more to it, and I'm very interested to see where it's going. And on top of that, it actually has like a coherent narrative, other than unlike most Souls-like games where it's really just boss rush the video game, right? Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the entire focus of the game is this is a hard video game, and you're playing it to fight the bosses, essentially, to get through and fight the bosses. There is an actual narrative in Code Vein, and it's an interesting one. I'm very vested in it. So I just want to implore all of you to not sleep on Code Vein, especially if you like that type of game. I think that, Nioh was probably the best Souls-like game. In all honesty, Nioh was quite good, but this is just better. This is better, and with the unique stuff that they're doing with the gameplay, I don't think that any of these other Souls-like games coming out are going to be this good. And the game is just very, very well polished. The combat is there. When you dodge, there's no delay. It feels like you're dodging. The iframes feel appropriate depending on your gear. Damage numbers feel right. Everything just feels right about Code Vein, which is very rare, especially for a game that is just not getting any hype. So I encourage all of you, if you're on PlayStation or Xbox One, go on the PSN store or the Xbox store, find the trial version of it, play it, put an hour or two into it, and then by then, if the game isn't for you, it's not for you. But I think a lot of people are really sleeping on this game. I think it is definitely the best Souls-like game to ever be released. And honestly, I think it's better. From what I've played, I think it's better than Dark Souls 1. I don't think Dark Souls 1 is a very good game. I'll just put that out there. People shit on Dark Souls 2, but Dark Souls 1 is way worse than Dark Souls 2. Way, 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 way worse. In terms of gameplay and locations and visuals and stuff like that, it's just way worse. Oh god. I'm literally having PTSD flashbacks. If it looked like I was looking into the void of despair, that is because I'm having PTSD flashbacks to Blighttown on Dark Souls 1. Just the worst location ever put into a video game ever. So bad. Oh god. But anyway, I'm gonna disappear from, society now. I'm gonna go grind Iceborne for many, 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 many hours. But I suggest trying out Code Vein. Try it out. I know there's a lot of games coming out, and it's an expensive time to be a gamer. Trust me, I am aware. But I suggest at least just play the trial, right? There's literally nothing to lose. And then play it and go, wow, this game's actually really good. The only issues that I would say it has, by the way, is the performance on console. I have the PS4 Pro, the best one that you can get, the Red Dead Redemption 2 bundle one, the most recent PS4 Pro, and it tries to hit 60, but when shit's going down, it does drop below 60 quite a bit. That's kind of the only negative that I would say, is it does drop below 60 quite a bit. Not like a lot. It's never like sub 30 or anything crazy like that. It drops to like 40, 45 FPS, which is noticeable, but it's not terrible. And I have no idea how it runs on stock PS4. I imagine they just go, yeah, we're not hitting 60, and so they just stick with 30. And I think if they just stick with 30, honestly, a base PS4 could handle this game at just 30 FPS, which isn't that big of a deal, right? Because that's what Souls games do. That's what Bloodborne does. Bloodborne runs at like fucking 12 FPS a lot of the time. So, performance, it's not bad. It's a lot better than a lot of the Souls games on console. But yeah, that's my take on Code Vein. It is a game I will be picking up day one, and I will be streaming probably day one. Depends if I'm still playing other games, but I will 100% be streaming my first playthrough of this game. It is very, very good. But thank you everybody for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and happy hunting if you are about to get on that Iceborne grind just like me. Have a good one, my dudes. Bye.